Okay, looks like everybody's on that needs to be on, and I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Park County Airport Board. Dates May 19th, 9 a.m. Roll call. First, Hunter here. Katie.
Here.
Steve. Here. Ray.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Okay, all present and accounted for. We have a quorum. Approval of minutes. We don't have a copy of the minutes from the last couple of meetings. So that's taken care of easy enough. Old business. Actually, this is, we have it entered under new business, but we've already gone through the discussion decision as far as landing fees for Mission Field. We approved it the last meeting. And now we're gonna have discussion and decision on the collection for those fees and how we want to address that. Lance, I'd like you to just kind of give us a history once again before we have any other input as far as collection of these fees, historically, how it's been, who's been charged these fees at landing fees at other airports, and justification for such. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, Ravalli County has always had landing fees. They just recently readopted landing fees or revised their landing fees with their major project. They have a full-time airport manager that works directly for the county, and they assess the landing fees there. At other airports, West Yellowstone, for example, the FBO charges the landing fees. At West Yellowstone, their landing fees are significantly cheaper. But then the other airport that currently that's in Montana for general aviation is Deer Lodge that assesses landing fees, and I'm not sure who collects those. And as we've discussed, Dylan is discussing implementing landing fees, and there's been no discussion to date as to how they would collect those, but their FBO also acts as airport manager, and I'm assuming that the airport manager / FBO would be tasked with collecting those because they don't have any other means currently, and that's just been the preliminary discussions. So hopefully that provides a decent background. Do you guys have any other questions on that?
Has got any questions for Lance on this as far as landing fees or what's being done elsewhere, how we want to implement this? Any other suggestions, discussions on this?
I was going to ask about Paul's thing he sent out relative to that subscription we can do to keep track. You know, wonder if others have used that and if they like it, if it does what they want it to do.
Yeah, I mean, I've used FlightAware, but not for that. And then Paul and I, of course, were discussing this before when he was trying to dig up information. I think it's a good idea, and
I do too.
you know, I don't think that it's relatively cheap, gives us all the information.
Paul said $100 a month, huh?
Yeah, not even, wasn't it, Paul?
No, $97 a month.
Yeah, you're right.
And they supply ADSB module that we plug into the pilot's computer up there and extend the range to 150-mile radius in LVM, or Livingston Field, to make sure all the landings and takeoffs are correct.
And then record it. It'll record it too, Paul?
It'll record it, and it comes out on a report, whether we choose weekly or monthly. It'll come out on a report with addresses. Some of the operators are coming in masked. In other words, they cancel their IFR flight plan with visual of Livingston. They shut off their ADSB, so there's no, but this FlightAware does track them landing and taking off from Livingston.
What about access? Can we all have access? Is there a charge for the number of individuals?
No,
So anybody, if you got the password, can get on there.
yes. They also offer, if we elect to, as part of the package, surface tracking. Let's say the fuel truck goes out to an airplane, they can report that. So they've got quite a network.
Is that an additional charge then?
No, part of the package.
Wow.
Geez, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's unbeatable.
Yeah,
Yeah, for $100 a month, so.
we need to do that, don't we?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. I think we got the money there to do it and, you know, gives us all, I mean, then every board member's got the access to it as well as the commissioners, as well as Matt. Everybody has the ability to look at it at any time, and then we get a report. And if we have a report published, Matt can bring that in at the end of, or prior to each month's meeting. Then we can have that down there. We know what's come in there. We know what our revenue is. We know what even if those airplanes are masked, we can still track
We know
them
they
down.
came in.
Yeah.
So the work around that is just get the airport manager to get the tail numbers.
And he's already doing that for
Yeah.
the ones that he fuels and such or services. What, you got any comments on that, Lance? Are you familiar with that Flyware program or anybody else that's using that for tracking?
You know, Hamilton uses it, Ravalli County Airport uses it, but I'm not sure. I know they use that to track and to bill, but I don't know if they're happy with it and if they're using all the ins and outs that you guys are discussing. I'm not sure.
And so Ravalli County and Deer Lodge or whoever else is out there is collecting fees currently, are they just incorporating that? And this is what I'm understanding from what you said. They're just incorporating that within the duties of their airport manager or the FBO or whoever, and there's no additional charge that they're paying for that, or are they being compensated for collecting the fees also?
So
Do you know?
Hamilton has a full-time airport manager that's a county employee, so that's who does this. In West Yellowstone, the FBO does it. They don't get compensated. The West Yellowstone landing fees are pretty minimal. I don't actually I don't see how they would be cost effective if you would actually consider the cost of collecting those. But they charge those nonetheless, and the FBO charges them and doesn't get compensated for it. I'm not sure on Deer Lodge.
And I mean, I don't think much has transpired since our last meeting, but you still think from your experience and what you see out there that the landing fees that we haven't approved at our last meeting are still in line with what's being done elsewhere?
You know, for general aviation airports, they seem to be in line with what's been done elsewhere. They might be slightly on the higher end, but you know, not out of reason by any means, I wouldn't think. I know Paul did a lot of research into that as well. So, you know, I think regardless of whether they're 300 or 175 or 200, I think they're, you know, going to largely be similar across, you know, the airports, the GAs in Montana.
And so as far as charging also, where we have that breakout at 12.5, I know Bozeman's dropped to 9,000. I haven't heard the rates out there. I can't get anything from anybody I know yet as far as what's going on. I think they're all going to be implemented on July 1 on that. But as a standard, and we've had some of this discussion before as far as who gets charged on these landing fees, you know, are there exemptions that others have? That we've seen for other airports that are charging landing fees, or you know, as we discussed before, for aircraft not necessarily based there but have hangars there, that they have a lower rate, or you know, a combined one lump sum annual rate, or these things. How does that appear to be working elsewhere? And if you can give us a couple of examples and ideas that go along with that.
Sure. So Hamilton waived their rates completely for anybody that was based. They were considering or seasonally based, has a hangar in good standing. They waived them completely. They were initially going to implement a flat rate. 2, 3, 4,000 was kind of the general discussion, just a flat rate per year instead of the landing fees, because those users use it quite a bit. The reason why they waived it was because they had two particular users at the currently, and they've donated pretty heavily to the airport. So they didn't want to hit them again because they were like, well, these guys donated to the airport. If there was more there, I'm certain that they would have adopted like a flat rate. I don't know what that would have been. So that's the case in Hamilton. They just flat waived them, but I think if they were different users, they would have adopted a flat rate for those based or aircraft, or those aircraft that have a hangar in good standing at the airport. I'll give you some examples of concerns with the 12.5 and having and hitting the based or seasonally based aircraft. One, there's no landing fees at Fort Benton, but Fort Benton, as an example, is a huge base for aerial applicator. There is a big business there that has like 30 aircraft at the airport. They don't all fly out of, they don't continually operate out of Fort Benton, but that's their home base. They take those aircraft all over. But if they adopted landing fees, there's no way that business would be located there because they could not do it. They'd be getting hit with all 30 of their aircraft for landing fees. So that's just an example. Another one is in Twin Bridges. They have a businessman that has a small jet. It actually is probably slightly below the 12.5, but he flies out. He's a local, lived there all his life. He has a business in Washington and Portland, and he flies out of there like 4 times a week. I can't say that he'd probably be super impressed if he was getting hit with landing fees every single time he was in and out of the airport. He contributes to the airport pretty heavily. Also in Twin Bridges, there's a serious interest from somebody that's trying to base forestry aerial applicators, single engine air tankers at the airport, and then get contracts with the U.S. Forest Service or BLM, and they want to base out of Twin Bridges. Same thing. If they were getting hit with landing fees and they were based there, I don't know that they could operate their business. So those are just some things to consider. Maybe it's something that you guys take on in the future on a case-by-case basis, but something that's likely going to pop up in the near term now or at some point in time in the future.
Okay, and are those guys paying any flat rate that you're aware of at Fort Benton or otherwise? Are they giving them $5,000 a year otherwise? Or
they're not. They don't have landing fees right now, but if I took your landing fees across the board to and say, oh well, Fort Benton's going to adopt those, they're not getting the same type of traffic you're getting. I was just trying to provide examples of what's happening at general aviation airports that where your landing fees might cause you issues with some development such as that. But I mean, like I say, it's something that the board could take on a case by case as those arose in the future as well. But it's something that eventually probably would pop up, or I hope will pop up, because it'd be nice to see like aerial applicator, somebody based there again.
So they're probably making their money on fuel sales on their additional 5 cents a gallon if those guys are buying their fuel there too and pumping their whatever on that, don't you think?
Yep.
Or okay.
Yeah,
Yep. So
they're hitting them, and obviously they have a lot of, like that guy that in Fort Benton, I mean, he must have like, I don't know, he's probably got like 8 hangars at the airport or something, and they're hitting him, and he's maintaining pavements and whatnot because he has some, so he's maintaining pavements there and contributing towards maintenance of the pavements, and he must have, he's got a pile of hangars that they're charging for.
Right. Board member questions for Lance or further discussion on this issue, how we want to deal with this here?
I don't know that we should be given exemptions before we start. No, I mean, maybe we're gonna have to give exemptions. But it looks like if we're gonna implement them, we put them in, and then if there's an exemption that we need to do sometime. If we're gonna start exempting before we start, we just will not.
What do you guys think?
So now, we've already adopted this, right?
Right.
That's our landing fee schedule, correct? After that, the last meeting.
Right.
So that pertains to any and all aircraft coming in,
Sure.
whether they're based here or not. So, and we don't have any, currently based here that are that size, but we have the potential here. What's gonna go on now is we have the construction that's going on, and these others that are gonna be based here that would fall into the charge category. So being Andrew Levy as well as 8 Mile currently proposed. Are the two that are on the right.
Then we need to see how frequently.
That's right. And that's the idea with a flat rate too on that, or how we want to address it. I mean, we've all had the information. I mean, what do you guys think is fair and just with how do we want to address this for individuals coming in here? We adopted the fee schedule. That fee schedule pertains to everybody.
So I have a question. Can we step back a little? Because I'm
Sure.
trying to fit the pieces
Yep.
together. I understand the discussion we're having now. How does that pertain to what you shared with us in FlightAware?
Yeah, but
I'm not sure.
that information that Paul's saying will be available to all of us for, to see. So we can see who's coming in, we can see, and so we keep track ourselves, as well as the airport manager keeps track, but the board members all have access to that information, so we know who's come in, when, what the size of the aircraft is, and,
I might add something else to that, probably
Sure.
goes along with that conversation, maybe help you out, Katie. Clint and I have talked in the past about, we're to the point where we need to get a dedicated secretary or some kind of person to handle the airport board of business. There's a lot of things that need to be taken care of, And so one of the things that I suggested was, at that point, maybe we would have this person do the collection, do the billing. This is a way of providing that person with the information, the addresses, the tail numbers to these airplanes to submit a bill.
Okay, so this software gives you the ability to bill for landing fees. It doesn't actually have like functionality built in
No,
for the payment of those.
there
fees.
are programs out there that do that.
Okay.
There's the cameras that take a picture of the tail number, automatically go to the FAA database, automatically sends a bill, but it's not cost effective for what we.
Because I'm just like trying to chat. I know we're having like a
There's
couple
two different-
conversations
yeah, there
in
are.
here. So
Is that FlightAware, is that like a contract that needs to be signed or?
it's a
Monthly
subscription.
just
So-
And is there a minimum, Paul? You sign up for a year minimum, or is it
Month
month
of time if you want.
I mean, yeah.
So are you saying that could be purchased in addition to this amendment? And then whoever the FBO is at this time, Yellowstone Air Services, would use that to then do the billing for landing fees?
Mhm.
So that's not a separate conversation. This is like, the software is an additional functionality to enable collection of landing fees.
Mhm.
And I think, one thing too, and Paul had this discussion, the board has in the past, but that, it gives all of us the information that's constantly going on out there. So we're all aware of what's flying in, flying out there, and as board members, we should have that information. All board members should have it. So it's not just for billing.
Not just
But-
us, those guys should have it too.
Yeah, exactly. And so they have the ability, we have the ability to know what's going on up there because, heck, I hardly get to the airport at all. I'm down
I
on
don't,
the
I live there, I don't get it.
That's right. And Steve and Paul get up there quite a bit.
Okay.
But, I think it's information I think that all the board members should have. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is the more information we have, as long as it's usable and manageable, the board members need to have that. If we're making decisions based on these airports, we need to have as much information as we can on what kind of traffic we have and what the traffic is.
Well, I think we also gotta keep in mind, a year down the road, we might say, well, there's a better mousetrap.
Right.
You
That's
know,
right.
there's a better way of doing this. We don't know, we're just getting started.
Mhm.
So,
And this would also enable us with more information, more data to understand, like you're saying, and then lend into this conversation we're having about, are there exemptions for landing fees?
Correct. So I
Okay.
guess, and that's.
Sorry, I
so
didn't
there's
have the
two
dots
different-
connected
Yeah,
for me.
They're
there's
not
three
doing
different
with
issues
the
here.
landing fees, if they're coming in mass, we wouldn't know.
With this software,
Picks
Yeah,
them up.
it picks
We'll pick that
everything
up.
It picks it all up. It's just as Paul was saying, though, a lot of
Okay.
these guys now are all masked. So they can actually hide their end number because, they're affluent guys and they don't want to be recognized or harassed.
they
by
don't
others
want
for
someone to have a
whatever-
Twitter account
Right.
tracking
For
their
whatever
plane around the
reason.
world.
But I think you're gonna see more and more of that in the future too.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd do it. If I was there, I wouldn't necessarily want everybody, you never know. Yeah, you never know. I mean, for security purposes or others. So it's a common thing I think we'll see more of, but at least we know what's going on there. That we know the aircraft when they're coming in. Such we might not have the end number, but once they're on the ground, then the airport manager has it, takes down the end.
So if we want to do exemptions, that's not actually on here for action. So that would be something we would put on a future agenda if we actually wanted to take. We're having the discussion, but if we wanted to take formal action.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I should read that more. Whether
Because we
can
just
do
have
that this
bylaws
time.
in this amendment.
Yeah,
and
that's a
then
separate
kind of
line item,
contract.
so this is,
Because
Just
that's
for-
one thing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, do we want to have that like next month? Or do we want to see like a summer season and then step back and use data to make that decision of where we draw the line for exemptions?
So I guess what I want everybody to know, and we've had this discussion before, is, 8 Miles put in a substantial amount of money into the mission field. Do we want to charge them $500 right now is what the rate is for their size aircraft every time they land it. That's what's gonna be, yeah, if we don't. And that's Lance to give you the perspective of what's
Okay.
being done elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if the board feels that that's fair to do that or not, and then you have, it's 8 Miles put in a substantial amount of money there, and then and the other based aircraft that we think that would pay landing fees right now would be Levy, and for his aircraft coming in, but he's just got a hangar there.
Are either of those already landing? With regularity?
Sure, those guys are coming in. But and that's why, as we agreed at the last meeting, the rate schedule applies to everybody. But there were 2 rate schedules before. If you had a hangar, there was a rate schedule, lower rate schedule, essentially half of what that published rate schedule was that we agreed to before. And so if you want to give those guys a break, but we agreed to the rate schedule as the rate schedule applies to everybody. So whether you have a hangar, whether you put any infrastructure in there, whether you do anything else.
Let's see where it goes. I mean, we have to pay our bills too,
That's what I think that's the main thing. That's why we're pushing
We
this. I
spend
mean,
a
that's
lot
what
of money and we don't really have a means of
Yeah.
paying it off.
That's the whole idea, Ray. I mean, that's why we're all doing this. That's why we're meeting today instead of Mondays to try to get, this implemented and get it on the agenda for Tuesday's meeting with the commissioners to get this stuff through as fast as we can. So,
Or if I could just make a comment, I know it's not.
yeah, hang on a second, White. I want to give everybody else a second, then let you interject. Does any other commission members here, board members, have any more comments on this?
Well, in summary, at our last meeting, we approved the 2-tier rate structure, based on whether they have a hangar or they don't.
Correct.
And then I think we have to deal specifically with 8 Mile because of the incredible amount of infrastructure they're paying for. So I'm inclined to implement the structure that we have in place and then set 8 Mile aside and let them have free access for the foreseeable future. Just because
What's foreseeable
it's a very,
future.
very unique situation.
And so,
I would be in support of that too, but what I think is important to me is like, there's a clear and consistent process. So I get a little uncomfortable when it's like in making exceptions that are like in the moment and not with like some structure around it. So, and that is gonna take, I know, some more like discussing and maybe research, but like, yeah, like talking in really tangible numbers and terms. They are supporting the airport in this way. This thus gives this sort of exemption for this amount of time. Or
If I
we
can,
just make it.
yeah, please,
I-
Lance, go
this
ahead.
is Lance. If I can interject, I totally agree with that discussion. Just because you got to make sure that you're documenting why you're waiving the fees and for how much. Simply because a grant assurance is for non-discrimination. Because if you're charging somebody else, you need to have something, in writing and structured as to why you waived it for this person, so that if somebody else is in a similar situation, they throw a hangar and they're flying the same aircraft and you're charging them. So just something that you put into structure if you guys are going to go that route.
So, and on that train of thought, we discussed this before, Lansing, and I believe you stated that 8 Mile's looking at putting in about $1.5 million that's on that taxiway access onto runway 4. Is that correct?
Yeah, at this
that
time,
would-
that's
that would
a
access-
reasonable cost estimate, yes.
Can I interject?
Sure, go ahead.
So because the fee schedule needs to be a resolution, once I hear back from the attorney's office that it's okay to go before the city or county commission, it's still gonna take 2 weeks from that point, so the likelihood of it being done very fast, even before the next airport board meeting, is pretty low. And we also, in the solid waste department, have an abatement request for solid waste assessments. And I would say, we could put something like that together for the next meeting that, lays out those stipulations that, you can request abatement of landing fees, up to, but not more than the amount you've put into the airport in the last X number of years. So these guys putting in 1.5 million, well, they probably will never land their plane enough to go over
Yeah.
that. Versus if you pay for a tree, okay, you paid $50 for a tree, so we'll take $50. But that would be my recommendation, is do something kind of like the solid waste department has. And you can bring that before you next month, which it's unlikely that there'll be many fees collected before the next meeting anyways, just because of the public process for a resolution.
So 2 weeks for it to go through the process at least, eh?
Once I get the okay from the attorneys.
And do we have a county attorney on staff, or are we still contracted out with?
The civil deputy attorney, we do not have, right, Clint?
So what's
Shannon's true position.
Yeah, but talking with Kendra, I think her name is Deb.
Okay, is Deb doing that?
Deb is she's part-time and she's gonna take the county commission stuff.
So
Okay.
what's realistic then, you think, Clint? That as far as if we do vote this through, goes to you commissioners for approval on Tuesday, approve it, and assuming that we can come to a resolution right here. Implementation, how stacked up is this attorney gonna be with other things that are pressing, or would this be something that would be relatively innocuous and we'd be able to get through in a short timeline?
Yeah, I'm just thinking back, last Tuesday, we had a meeting on citizen initiated zoning. Give the county attorney 3 weeks to go through that and make it right. So the speedy wheels of meshing in the county is not speedy at all, it's slow. So I would say if you're collecting fees in a month, we'll be doing good.
Under,
Go ahead, Steve.
given the simplicity of this thing, why don't we just go and implement it immediately on a trial basis, subject to the final approval by the powers that we're discussing here?
I don't think you legally can charge Steve without a resolution and a public hearing, letting people know what you're doing. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Everything else, whether it's garbage fee or anything, tax abatement, everything has got to be legally noticed, ran through and approved by the commission, and then public hearing in the process.
All right, I'm gonna cut to the chase.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go
make a
ahead.
motion that we present this, we recommend to the county commissioners, they accept this fee schedule, just the fee schedule. Let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
We're convoluting
We've
this
done
thing.
that. We have that last meeting. So the fee schedule's set. And that's,
It's not approved by the commission, because we didn't do it because we wanted to have this conversation
Right.
about what you're having today.
so,
So if we, but it's not noticed for action today, the exemption?
correct.
Yes, the exemption's not noticed, but you've already put the fee schedule in place.
Fee
This is-
schedule.
Today was just the collection of it. Yellowstone
So
So
Air
that's
Service
fine, we
collected.
can make a decision on this
On the
exemption
Yellowstone Air
today.
Service
Yeah,
collected.
and that's why Matt
Okay.
drafted this with the
Yep.
amendment there, so that we can do this with the fee schedule we approved the last meeting. But the last meeting, we couldn't come to an agreement as far as how to collect this. And so now with this amendment
Okay.
on here for us, then that whole package can go together, go to the commissioners, and get approved, and then start the ball rolling.
Well,
And-
with, excuse me, with
Yeah.
8 Mile, aren't they paying for the use of the runway? They're not, the reason they're building the taxiways, their hangar, is for their use only, right?
It's for their use, but everybody else benefits by it, and so it's a common
When you
good.
come in here in $100 million airplane, why do you complain about $500?
But it wouldn't be $500. I mean, I guess,
How much
I
would it
guess
be?
the thing, right now, I'm just bringing this up, Reed, we don't even have to address that right now, so we
Well,
can
I
address it
just
in the
don't
future.
see why we're gonna exempt. Granted, if they were to come in every day,
Yeah,
then it's different.
That's still not what you're voting on today.
yeah,
No,
so,
that's why.
yeah, but
Hunter, if I may, just on that, just give you the.
sure,
That's all
yeah, I
right.
don't want to get too
I'll
complicated
be
here.
done.
I know
I'll
it's-
be done.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only argument I give you kind of on the side of that is they looked at this package holistically and did analysis without the fee schedule in place. It feels a little like a bait and switch, even though it's not a lot of money. People who got money don't like getting money taken from them either. I don't.
No,
think-
I realize.
I don't think you can give them a, waive for the rest of the eternity either. That's not fair or
Right.
equitable to the county, right, or the airport. But I think there's a period, and I think your process comment is exactly right. There should be a period based upon the amount of investment or something that comes to an end. I think that's just equitable for everybody, because everybody's kind of looking at, and I know everybody's moving quick, which is great, but I think that some sort of period of time based around investment and a process that's non-discriminatory would be great. And, at some point, if it's 5 years from now, they're paying fees, then they know they're paying fees 5 years from now, and that's not a surprise, right? And it doesn't feel like you're kind of getting any sort of hinky. bait and
Well, we're
switch.
not,
I know we're not doing that, but.
we're not doing that because they're coming.
I understand that, but
I feel like we're doing it because the rest of the people in Park County are not gonna be very excited about letting them land free while we raise their taxes.
well, I don't think we should, and I don't think anybody land free is the right answer in the long run, for sure.
Well, we still have to maintain the runway and all that stuff,
Understood.
which we've done in the past without raising our mill levies or anything.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I just think that there's.
Yeah.
probably
Oh,
a
I know
transition.
why it's not a bait and switch. So,
I understand. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's kind of sometimes if you're not in the conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I think really part of the problem with the airport board in the past is doing something that we lose track of.
Mhm.
Abatement forever doesn't make sense. But I do think an abatement argument for 5 years makes sense. That stays pretty fresh, could be on the books, and we can say, thank you for doing what you're doing, but we only allow abatements period for 5 years at the most. I think there's something you can do there if you want to, that could help them and keep it simple and clean and a short period of time. You do 10 years or 20 years or try to keep track of their landing fees based on their cost of their taxiway.
Yeah.
Believe me, we'll all forget about that in 10 years.
Well, even 5 years, there's a good chance there's not going to be any of these members who are going to be here.
What are you saying?
I'm saying I'm not.
You're a member for life, Ray.
You already have been, right?
You're an institution, you can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should, but I'm just saying if you do, it'd be much easier to simplify it in a short number of years. And so we can keep track of it, because I'm not going to be here either. So
That I'm pretty sure of.
that I'm damn sure of.
So,
And I would like to add one footnote to kind of what you said there is that the improvement they're making is a long-term improvement that will lead to a full-length taxiway someday, which is anybody that misses the turnout will be using it to come back and rather than turn around and backtrack and all that kind of thing.
well, it's access for the TA and others, but I think we can, as was mentioned here, I think that we can have this discussion at the next meeting. As far as we want to do it, they can come up with proposals and things, but I think there's something that should be done there.
Well, now
Also,
we're
but right
just,
now-
we're just talking about,
Exactly, Ray. So I just want that information out there, what's being done at other airports, for things as well as, what we want to do in the future. We don't want to discourage others from it, but
and we don't want to discriminate either.
That's right.
Well, in a
Exactly.
year or 2 or 3, the board can pick this back up, right? I think especially if we go this route and we start with this software and we start having data, it'll be a lot easier for me to have these discussions
Exactly.
with numbers in front of me instead of just kind of like
Yeah,
guessing.
we have no idea.
Mhm.
Your motion's still on the table.
Hey, apparently.
Yeah. This is discussion still.
Thanks for letting me say something.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so as it stands on here right now, we already had a motion at the last meeting. We passed that motion for adopting that for the fee schedule that was proposed. That applies to all the planes, anybody who's coming in, whether they own a hangar there or not right now. So that's what we voted on to adopt. So right now, what's in front of us, now that will go as a package, is this draft amendment. Now let's look at the amendment that Matt has drafted on here, and if there's any modifications otherwise, because this is how we're gonna collect the money in addition to it. So contract was entered November 23rd, 2021 between Park County and Yellowstone Air Service. Contract was for Airport Manager Service, Mission Field. Original contract shall be amended to include the collection of fees and charges according to resolution. The number isn't set right now because it has to go before the county commissioners for their approval. Mission Field Airport fee rates, which we agreed to last month, and charges scheduled. The contractor shall be compensated 10% of the fees, charges collected in addition to charges stipulating the original contract. The amended contract shall term from May 1st to December 31st. Now, we talked about a month to month on here. This, this is obviously going beyond this. This is a 1.5-year contract on here as it stands. So are the dates what everybody wants? What do we want to have on here? Is there further discussion on this? What do you guys think of this amendment as it's laid out currently right now?
Well, I think I pretty much voiced my opinion is that if we are going to get another person on this to take care of this board business, one of the things that I think the board should have is the option to maybe use these fees to supplement that wage for that county person at that time.
Do we, I agree, Paul. Do we want to, and realistically, Clint, getting a person on board, are we going to have enough money to be able to do that for a part-timer? I know you and I have discussed this, Paul, and see what the other options are out there. I mean, do we think that this is something that's, you never know. I understand that also. So,
Well, I think based on a very small estimate of landing fees, I think you'll have the money to pay a part-time person. I've talked to Erica. Erica agrees, thinks that's a great idea. I talked to Matt. We agreed on maybe that person having duties in other places too. Because really, a half-time person is a lot of time for the airport. So, but if we do a half-time person, maybe she can help out with solid waste and other things and combine those wages. I think it's absolutely doable. I think pretty positive from finance and everybody else. So, yeah, I think it's there.
And we're established right now within, with Erica to be able, as soon as that resolution goes through, as soon as we go through the public notification process on this, we'll be able to implement those fees as soon as we have that. I mean, is there gonna, I mean, I would think the county's already got to establish the ability to collect fees easy enough, and, we can get that. Just so once the process is done, it looks like this is, it's gonna take at least a couple weeks, just like you said, we'd be fortunate if we had it done by the next meeting and at the end of June. But at that point, if everything has gone through the legal process, are we gonna be able to, as soon as that's done, are we gonna be able to start collecting the fees on that day?
Well, I would sure hope so, but until we find that person and hire that person and do the budget resolution, the draft budget approval, which would be done by the end of June. We're gonna have to find somebody that's gonna take over that job until we find that person. Can we do it? Yes. And we'll just have to figure out who that is, what that is. I'm looking at Katie. She raised her hand. You're accepted.
No, but half,
Oh,
I just question half time. I'm like, isn't this maybe like 4 or 5 hours a week?
Right,
Right.
I would think, exactly.
But our thought was 4 or 5 hours a week. If we could find somebody to do that, great. But there's other things we need in Park County besides the airport.
Right. So the other pieces would backfill it. We wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily be paying for a halftime.
Right.
Because now we're looking at like $30,000 or something probably to do
Yeah.
that with
No.
everything.
The airport doesn't need halftime.
Okay.
But I think we can make it
Quarter times.
better for the person to be halftime and maybe have somebody stays around a while, maybe at least a couple weeks.
If that's the case, you ought to do this on a month-to-month thing.
Well, that's why I'm asking that. I mean, I think a year and a half is too long on this, and we want to have the ability to be able to hire somebody if somebody comes along, to be able to do that. Whether they come along next month or whether they come along 6 months from now. But I think, but I guess what I'm looking at too. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm gonna say that we might be dealing with two different issues here. One is the accounting and keeping track of it, and the other is the guy on the front line that collects the money.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to compromise that either.
Well, I think that's that, but having access to that FlightAware software, and then by Gabriel taking down the end numbers, and we'll have that information. And so that individual can bill out that person that at that time send them a bill every month or however. Isn't that how you envisioned it,
Yeah.
Paul?
I think if you were to change this to be the end of this coming year or end of 2022.
Yeah.
That would work because if we get someone hired in October, it's not like you're gonna see many planes coming in between October and January 1st anyways.
I guess I think that, what I'm hearing, Paul, the way I feel too is, and from Clint, is just if somebody comes along, we want to be able to have the money there and the ability to get them on board right away too. So, I think month to month, if we worded it month to month, it seems like it's almost too little, but then I don't want to discourage if somebody's out there and able to do it. I don't want them to go away either. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Clint?
Tell
I
you
mean,
that they can't come to work till the 1st of January.
Right, exactly. What do you think?
Well, the way employment is right now, I can't even tell you.
I mean, do you think the month to month or should we do 3 months on there? Something, I mean, I just hate to have something set on there and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody drops in our lap this afternoon, which could happen, highly unlikely, but I don't want to have, I want us to have the flexibility. I know that's what Paul's.
I think honestly, if you're
too.
looking at probably 4 or 5 hours a week,
Yeah.
honestly, if you went till January 1 of 23, 6 months from now, 7 months, even if we hired somebody, you'd have enough income to cover that cost. Until we got a job description put together to do other things. But, it might be a nice little thing for somebody to do that's 4 or 5 hours a week, but I have no problem going till January 1st, 23,
What do you guys
which would be
think?
7 months.
Can we sub it out to an outfit downtown and just,
I think we'll pay a higher rate, but it'll get done. I mean, I don't want to be redundant on what we're doing, at least.
Well, I'm
I
kind
think
of,
it's-
Hunter, I don't wanna jeopardize if somebody actually is interested in getting the job. I
Yeah.
wanna have it tied up.
But I think,
I don't
that's
know.
what Clint's saying, I think too, by saying that if you give this till January 1 of 23, that we still have the ability to pay in addition to that. That's what you're
So you
saying.
can still hire.
Yeah, still hire them and then cover it otherwise and then make up for
We
it
could-
after.
Hire the person to help with solid waste in January,
Right.
move them to the airport, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, this is gonna drag on longer than I think any of us thought to try to collect these fees anyway. I just wanna make this, so we don't.
You gotta have all kind of truck drivers for solid waste here pretty quick.
I think we have everybody.
We have one open position, but training back and forth. We'll have it covered if we don't get someone.
And hauling them on those bottles on a flatbed. Yeah.
No,
You haul one at a time?
one on a truck, one on a trailer.
Oh,
There's a solid waste board meeting this afternoon, if you'd like to come to that discussion.
I've been to several.
Okay, so how do you guys want to deal?
So I
with
think
this?
there's a lot of unknown. I think it's great. It would be awesome to get someone who could do some clerking. There's so much unknowns in that right now.
Yeah.
We've been doing it, as we all know. I think maybe going through the end of this calendar year, that at least bridges our season.
Yeah.
It gives us that cushion. If we do find someone that's amazing, we'll have some big sales to raise the $4,000 we're gonna need or something to like double dip for 2 or 3 months. I don't think that's a huge.
But I think what Clint's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Clint, is that we wouldn't necessarily be double dipping, we'd balance it out after the fact.
Right, if we're,
Yeah,
their contract's good till January 1st with that person, if they want the job, we'll hire them. And they can do other things for the county until
yeah.
which time.
Yeah.
It takes over.
And be compensated for it, and then but then at least we're insured till first of the year.
Yeah.
We're getting through the
Our season.
busiest part of the season, and then come January 1.
Nice.
I mean, what do you guys think? What do you want to do? How do you do it? How do we want to modify this? Do we want to modify the amendment?
let's, change December to January 31st, 2023.
23.
22.
I'm sorry.
It is
January,
22.
then you need 23.
Yeah.
December.
Yeah, December 31st, 22.
Oh, I'm gonna change it to the date of the
Yeah.
month, whichever.
Is that what you guys want to do?
Sure.
Well, I think we've had discussion on this. We probably need a vote to amend this proposal as it stands.
So is that a clerical? 23, December 23?
No, you guys just said you wanted to change it to 22.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he did, yeah.
Yeah, I did, but I was using January 1st of 2023. We're one day apart here.
Yeah.
Can we split it in half something?
Let's just say 22.
You can do either or, you just can't do both.
Yeah. So do we need to vote on that, Clint, for that change,
Yes,
since it's a
because
proposal?
it is an
on there?
amendment to the
Yeah,
contract.
okay. So let's go through it, make sure everybody's clear on this and go through on the end of this. And if there's any further discussion. So except for the amendments set forth above, the remainder of the original contract shall remain in full force and effect. See attached exhibit 1 for current Mission Field Airport rate fee schedule. I think that's all clear. So essentially, all we're doing is putting this in addition for Gabriel's contract as the airport manager till the end of this year to 22, to December 31st to 22, starting on May 1st, of which we are now at the end of May. So we say June 1st.
Oh, well, I'll just update that when it it goes before the commission.
Yeah.
We won't know that one until we get the other.
All right, till the date is.
Yeah.
All
I've got one question.
Yeah.
I assume you drew this up.
Yeah.
Okay. So December 31st of 2023, isn't that past his original contract termination date?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
I think we're on an annual contract.
Yeah, we're on an annual contract, so that would extend his original contract also.
No, that wouldn't change the actual.
Yeah, it's stated right then, so the original contract shall remain in full force and effect. So it's a clarity, so the original contract, the way I'd interpret it, I'm not an attorney, but the way I'd interpret that is it's pretty clear right there that his original contract would terminate it at whatever time it did. And so whether that
So
was,
this
I mean,
would no
that's how
longer
I
be
would
valid.
interpret it.
But by
Correct.
doing the action you're doing now, it won't bother you at all.
Right. That's how I would interpret it.
Yeah. I agree.
Make sure everybody's clear on what we got here so we
End
can
of this year.
vote. End of this year, that's right, right? But that's not saying that if we find somebody during that period, they can't come on and Clint will have them doing other things and then, but we're obligated to Gabriel to pay
Is there
that.
any way we can tell him? Maybe if we got somebody, he wouldn't be doing it?
Well, I think that, yeah, I think that's
I mean, if
all
somebody
part of it.
came along.
No, absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
that's
if that
part of this
person
whole,
would start doing it and Gabriel would not.
right. I
And all I would be changing is he wouldn't be collecting the fees, right?
correct. That's my understanding. Yep. No, I think that's exactly right. No, I think that's what it is. And that's what they're saying that, what Clint's saying, if somebody comes along, we can get them on there. Then we'll get them on there doing some other things and for the county and then overlap with this and train. So we're obligated to Gabriel to the end of the year, if that's what he wants. He can bow out of this too if we got somebody else on there during that time, if he wanted.
No, there's
But
no
if he doesn't, then he's gonna get that 10%.
working
you know,
man's
for-
privilege, pick up your lunch pail and go home.
That's right.
Well, then I'm gonna make one more comment. If everybody decides to let this go to December 31st, 2023, then I think part of this amendment is that Gabriel will supply the airport board with all the end numbers of part of this amendment of all the end numbers that come in and land and take off from Livingston, Michigan.
I think,
We want to do that flight aware.
yeah, we
Yeah,
do. But you're right, Paul. I mean, you gotta have, and so whether in the end numbers or proper documentation or something on there, we want to have that word in there. Absolutely. You need to be able to supply the board and the county, with that. I mean, it's just like doing a ledger on there. You need to do a ledger for this. So we know where these fees are coming from and which claims are paying. I mean, is that what you're saying? Or go
What's on
ahead.
the table is December 31st of 22.
Correct.
That's what's on the table right now.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
That's gonna be struck.
But then,
But what I'm saying is, what I'd like to see added to this amendment, since we're documenting everything, we're doing this amendment because he is a contract person instead of a county employee. And his duties have to be spelled out. I mean, we had the meeting where we struck the two clauses that had nothing to do with airport duties.
Right.
Then I would like to see that clause put in this amendment that part of this deal is his responsibility to provide the airport board or the commissioners with the end numbers of every airplane that lands or takes off. In the fee schedule, not every small airplane.
Sure.
But
Anything we charge for.
Huh?
Yeah.
Anything we charge for.
yes.
Yeah, anything over 18,000.
So how do we word that and where does that get interjected in there? So the original contract shall be amended, collection of fees and charges according to resolution. We put it right after that point, proper documentation, including all end numbers of charged aircraft.
Could language go in the exhibit at the top? Does that not make sense?
Probably better be in the contract. I'll take it to Gabriel, make sure he's okay with it.
That would need to be included in. this
Yeah.
amendment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another paragraph.
Oh, yeah, or sentence, really. So wording on it and placement of it. It can be right at the end of that paragraph. I would think the amended contract shall have a term May 31st, 2022 through December 31st of 2022. Strike 3, then all N numbers for aircraft,
Well, we could put the weight, we could 12,500 and over.
well, it's already listed there. So it already says airport fees and rate schedule in accordance with airport fee and rate schedule. All we want is the N numbers according to that. He's already got that on there. So you can just put it after that sentence too. So shall be amended to include the collection of fees and charges according to resolution blah, Mission Field Airport fee rates and schedule and charges schedules. All, and then period, all N numbers of charged aircraft will be recorded. Does that sound right?
I think not charged aircraft, I think all N numbers, because we want to compare it with the flight aware thing. And then that's gonna help with the masking problem.
Yeah, no, that's right, Paul. It will. Yeah,
So
so
we're
all
on all in.
N numbers for the
Well,
aircraft that are charged.
for aircraft that are gonna be, that fall under their fee schedule.
Yep. Yep, so we have a record of all. Yeah. So all N numbers shall be recorded for our all charged aircraft. That sound right? Is that concise enough? Does that sound decent, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so just interject that, Matt,
Okay,
just after charges schedule, all N numbers for all charged aircraft will be recorded.
okay, yeah, then I'll take it to Gabriel and make sure he's okay with it, otherwise we'll have to come back here next month.
Let's hope not. It's not on this topic. So, does that sound good with everybody? Do we, all right, so let's, as that's presented right now, do I have a motion to accept this with the changes that we just put down for the contract for services amendment to the airport manager's contract, to Gabriel's contract? Do I have-
Basically, that's your motion, isn't it?
So moved.
No, I never made this motion.
No, let's make a motion to accept this.
Okay.
Are we gonna accept this with the changes we just discussed in
A
there?
date
Right.
change
A
and
date
the
change.
reporting requirement.
Correct, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the amendment with the date change to December 31st, 2022, and the reporting requirement
For all N numbers
for all N numbers
of charged aircraft.
of charged aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Good teamwork.
Gotta think like an attorney sometimes. Yeah.
Second
All
by
right.
Steve.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion passes, the amendment, so move forward. Hopefully you guys can get this taken on the agenda Tuesday and
But
We
doesn't
can-
mean it can't be on the agenda until after the fee schedule is passed.
so fee schedule's gotta get passed.
Yeah, because I need all the resolution numbers and everything on.
All right,
May I make a sentence?
yes, go ahead, Steve.
In regards to material Paul uncovered on this software thing, costs $100 a month. Can we just go ahead and do that anyway and get it up? And
Yeah, I
running?
think that we should have a motion for that too.
Who
So,
does it?
I don't know. I don't think we need a motion.
I
Is
don't
that just
think-
administrative?
You don't need a motion and you can't have a motion if it's not,
okay,
I think we can
but you don't need a
push
motion.
for $95 a month. I mean,
it's minimal.
Is that
Yeah.
something we put to
I don't
you?
think you need
Right.
commission approval for
Okay.
that.
Right on. So you could just get together with Paul and then, see how to do it with FlightAware and sign up for that.
Yep.
And get it, and then
I
get
think-
it so that we all,
I
so
think
all
it's a
the,
good deal.
yeah, no, I think it's a good deal too. So that all board members, let's make sure everybody's got access to it. So we all got, your key code or, whatever they have, password and access. And
Is it
then,
Probably have to have
unlimited
email
users?
address, but
yeah, I'm sure we will.
Is it unlimited users?
I don't
Forget
need,
it.
Is it unlimited users?
I don't need the text or none of
If
it.
there's a limit on users, feel free to leave me off so you can.
I don't believe there is a limit on it. I mean,
Just, we'll
it seems
see.
to me his quote was, all the board members, commissioners, you, anybody else that wanted access to it could get access.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's provided so that all the members of this board have access to it if they want it. And the county commissioners do too, and Matt, that's all I care. You know, if you use it, that's fine, but I want to make sure everybody's got access to it.
So that's
You have your
750.
computer.
Yeah, I think,
We've got all that.
yeah, exactly. So I
I just
can't
don't
believe it.
You
Just,
don't need it.
we'll make-
I'll leave it, you
No
guys
work.
figure it out, and then we'll have a report, and then sign up for it as soon as we can. As far as I'm concerned, sign up for today.
Today.
Sooner can, not that we're charging, but at least that gives us a better handle on what's going on out there.
Hey, it's Brent from Cook County. Can I add a couple things?
I think it's an appropriate time. Brent, go ahead.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, just so you guys. I'm trying to help you to make sure everybody's thought about this. You know, FlightAware tracks the aircraft owner, who may not be the operator. So
Right.
I don't know if you have a structure in place to find the actual operator, and what if you have a plan in place when you try to send invoices and they're not paid. But there are companies that track the operator and not the owner. There are systems in place for that.
We're aware of that, Brent. It's called Amstat is one of them for an additional $180 a month.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at that, but in 8 Mile, we'll be putting in a request for an exemption.
Sure.
And
You
guys can tell me the best way to do that, if I got to get the attorneys involved, or if an informal letter from us will work, and who that would need to go to.
I think you can put it towards the airport board when you think,
Okay.
and just come up with your, for your argument as far as what you want and why you want it, and can present it to the airport board. You can address it to myself or the airport board or Clint or whatever, and we'll get it on the agenda next month or whenever it shows up.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Anything
Those are my
else?
comments.
Okay, all right. All right, it looks like we have that taken care of for the time being. Livingston Park County Airport bylaws, you got that on there, Matt? What?
I did. So I put this on there because you currently don't have any airport bylaws. The two ways that'll happen is you guys can take the reins and create your own bylaws, or the city is going to try to create bylaws for you during the county compact negotiations. So I wanted to let you guys know that if you would like to be the master of your own fate, you need to start. If you don't, that's fine, but that should be an active decision.
Is that, at that point, man, do we be like rural one then?
No, it would just be part of the compact between the city and the county.
What Ray is coming to is, so a little history on that. The airport tried to do their own bylaws. Don Wilson worked on that and worked on that and worked on that. There was a lot of holes in it. And Don left. And so Shannon Piccolo at the time gave us a set of bylaws that she threw together on the county side, just bylaws, what the board is, how many members, all that stuff. But there was never any action on Shannon's bylaw suggestion. I'm sure we could look that up and present it to the board to review.
Wasn't there something about us all operating under the joint resolution?
Yeah, well, then there's the other thing that by state law, city, county, airport boards can be an executive board. I've read that several times, gone through the attorney's office with it. You have the right to be your own executive board, which means you run the show. You don't have to make a recommendation to county commission at all. You can just run your board, make decisions. And I'm totally fine with that, as long as you understand that our county will not cover you liability wise on insurance, because you make your own decisions. It would be like Rural Fire One, Ray. It would be their own attorney, their own staff, the whole deal. You have the right to do that.
And then you have to be, when I was on Rural One, they had to have an election.
Right?
election
And I could see
officers.
that probably
Yeah, that
happening
would-
here too.
Yeah, and they haven't had one since.
The
They don't
fire-
want any more like me on.
Well, no, we've actually approved elections for rural fire.
Oh, have you? They
Yeah,
never been in the paper and stuff.
not too long ago, we sworn in new officers for the rural fire department.
But they were not on they didn't have an election.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Thought so.
Yeah,
They did?
I thought so.
I
I'm
never
pretty sure
voted.
they did.
I never got a notice to,
I guess,
but anyway, that's.
yeah, does it make any sense for us to do it? We incur all the costs. What's our ability to get FAA funding then? I mean, it sounds like we incur a tremendous amount of liability and cost.
Well,
From-
it is in the state law, so I would imagine Lance would know, or other people would know
You
who
still-
does that.
You still on, Lance?
I am, yeah, but there's several airports. There's a lot of airport authorities. When what an airport authority is essentially a separate governing body, and this is defined within Montana Code Annotated. Airport authorities can have taxation power, et cetera, et cetera. There is means, and several of the primary airports, Bozeman, Helena, they are airport authorities. They have taxation power, although Helena, for example, doesn't. They're self-sustaining, so they don't charge any taxes, but they have ability to. There are several combinations of this that there are some examples for general aviation airports that kind of do somewhat of a combined effort. So Cut Bank, for example, and I believe Laurel also are airport authorities, but they utilize a lot of the county. So they utilize the city and county attorney still. The members of the airport authority two are appointed by the county. Commonly, one is a county commissioner that sits on the airport authority. Two are appointed by the city, and then they'll have, if it's a 5-member board, one, at large. And that's the way the counties and cities, still have some authority within it. And so that's the ability. There's a process involved in that, signing resolutions, getting that to the FAA, but then the grants go back to the airport authorities, the FAA grants. So it doesn't change your impact to, it doesn't change your ability to get FAA funding. There's just a little bit of a process involved. It simplifies things in some manners. For Cut Bank, for example, I work directly with essentially the airport board. But the other side of things is it can kind of complicate things as well, because then when I go talk to the county attorney, they have no idea who I am or what I'm contacting them about. So, yeah, it's just a preference thing.
But the big deal with this one was just wanting to let you guys know
Right.
that don't be surprised. Yeah, don't be surprised in 3 months when there's something saying cities. trying
We
to push your
already have
bylaws.
that, 2 from the city and 2 from the county.
No, with the
But-
compact of,
Yeah.
you guys don't have bylaws, so the city's coming in the compact and trying to say, here's our airport compact for the city and the county, here's your bylaws. If you're fine with that happening, that's fine, but just, I don't want you guys to be
But
surprised.
the county would be negotiating in that process as
The
well.
county.
Yes, county commissioners would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
but if you get this in place or work forward with it now, then kind of you're in the driver's seat instead of
See, just the matter,
sitting back.
you weren't here, but I got involved in that process a couple, 3 years ago. And I went to the all-day course down here in the basement put on by MSU so that we could go out and do all this, and we kind of did it all, and all got thrown overboard.
The guy shot down by the assistant county attorney, right, Shannon Piccolo? Yeah.
Yep, she said we
So all that
didn't
work
need
went
it.
down the toilet.
Okay,
But we just gotta decide how we wanna proceed in the future, so.
May I interject one thing? I want to back up here a little bit. Whole business, we kind of moved on,
Yep, I didn't, yeah.
but I had one thing under old business.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be brief. Can I do that, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
We have a hangar that's gonna be constructed shortly up there in Mission Field. And in the board rules and regulations, this gentleman ought to be notified to bring this set of finished plans to the board for review. And the reason I'm asking that, Lance can interject. I have a legal opinion I brought with me about residences in hangars. And we want to make sure everything is done legit so we don't lose any of our MIP money.
Yeah.
From the FAA. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you're referring to Levy's hangar. correct?
yes, I
Yeah,
am.
do we have a,
I thought you guys had approved that.
yeah, but I thought we did too, but
Early winter.
We approved it, but we haven't seen the set of plans
Or the site plan.
or the
I
site
thought-
plan.
I thought you guys
we
approved
had
the
the
site plan.
site plan.
Yeah.
Did have the site plan, then the site changed, you know.
Cause I remember him even asking you guys about colors on the
Right,
Colors,
hangar.
yeah.
That there was, he came with the set plans.
I've never seen them.
I
We can
honestly,
go
I
back and
can
look through, I guess.
Yeah,
there's not
look
minutes
through
for
and
all those,
see what you can find,
But we
and if you
can't
can get
have-
it out to everybody.
Living quarters.
but- Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
can have overnight quarters, correct, Lance?
Yeah, I can read it to you. I can read it to you. I was quickly trying. There's a hangar use policy out there. So the FAA has a hangar use policy that basically provides interpretations of the FAA orders, but I can read it to you here. It says hangars may not be used as a residence with limited exception for sponsors providing on-airport residence for full-time airport manager. That's your case with Gabriel. And then it says the FAA differentiates between a typical pilot resting facility or aircrew quarters versus a hangar residence or hangar home. The former are designed to be used for overnight and or resting periods for aircrew and not as a permanent or even temporary residence. So, and then it references an FAA order, see FAA order 5196.6b. Paragraph 20.5b. And so that's what that says. It has to be clear within your leases that any living quarters needs to be solely utilized as pilot resting facility, aircrew quarters designed for, resting periods and nothing beyond that. As long as you have that within your lease agreements, I don't see an issue. You already have a hangar that has pretty good facilities within it, but it just needs to be clear that it's not permitted to be permanent or even, it's not intended to be used for like, oh, well, they fly in for 1 week at a time and they just stay there for a week, or they stay there for 3 days. They're not supposed to take the place of hotels unless it's just for resting periods for the air crew and essentially overnight.
That Lance, pretty much word for word is the legal opinion that I found. And it also states on a case-by-case basis, the FAA will determine whether that policy has been violated by even overnight status or length of time. So when you say crew, it is very explicit. It says crew resting areas and not a permanent or even temporary residence. And that's what you just stated, and that's what I got also. So you can't have living quarters there in a hangar.
Okay.
So we need to make that plain, so these folks that are building that, they can put in a resting area and stuff, but their intent is to have people stay there 2 or 3 nights. That could put us in violation.
So we should have that. That should be another thing that we have in our lease agreements with, for the outgoing leases for hangars. And just include that, be explicit in that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
We've been over that for years.
Yep, we have.
that's nothing new.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Just so you guys are aware that there was somebody filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, against I don't know, 24 airports in Montana, probably 10 years ago, and one of those airports was Mission Field, and the FAA came out and investigated the hangars and the manager's residence and everything else. They came out to Livingston. They determined everything was fine. They were concerned about the hangar that you have there currently that has pretty nice facilities within it. But as long as the lease agreement protects per the policy, they determined that you guys were fine. So they don't differentiate between like, oh, well, you can't have nice quarters. Well, no, you can have really nice, pilot resting quarters with, kitchens and stuff like that. But it's more concerning to them, but it's not against the policy as long as you protect for it and they're used as intended for pilot resting quarters.
And this came up, Paul, because you saw something mentioned in the plans that they had residents that they were gonna say for levies.
The electrical contractor that got the job made it known that they were putting in residential quarters in the tank.
What he thought were residential.
Yeah, so, but I don't know because I haven't seen the plans. And I don't know if you guys, have you seen them?
No, I have not, no.
No.
So,
I'll go back and look and see what you guys.
go back and look and just make sure we're clear on it. I think that they're clear on, I mean.
In
most
the
of these guys
FAA,
don't-
they made it known that if you do that, then we're gone.
Yeah, well, and all these guys know it. These guys flying these jets all know it. I mean, if you're at that level, they know what the rules are.
Then it means
So-
they don't push.
Yeah. But we do just need to have that clarification on there. So if you can find those plans, Matt, and just make sure we can get them out. If they're there, if they're that explicit on there. And just, I can talk to Len here.
I haven't seen plans that explicit. but
Yeah.
I'll look to see what you guys told me.
Let's see. I guess, airport managers report, we don't have Gabriel here. Is there anything else on these lines of topic you guys want to-
Matt,
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm trying to get to. I was just looking at budget report, which we don't have anything with Erica today. So Matt, with Public Works Director, you got your synopsis there.
Yeah,
So tell us what's going on with the terminal building with our septic tank.
so the septic tank, we are having the drain field engineered for where that can go, because where the old one is, it can't legally be, and with the taxiways going through there, it would be under a taxiway, so we don't want to put something in that we have to rip out in 2 years. So I'm working with them just to make sure, or I'm working with Staley on that, to make sure they have the drain field designed up there, away from wells, that sort of thing. We got a quote for some mini AC splits up at the terminal building. That was around 25,000, because that building gets hot as Hades during the summer. During the shoulder season as well, those should be actually more efficient than the boiler system in that building. So looking at putting that in this next year's budget, working with GIS to create a map that actually will track the airport leases. You'll just be able to zoom in on the airport, you click on the hangar, and it brings up all the information about it. So we're putting that together right now. Been doing ground leases and transfers, make sure those all are good. And then just a large amount of documentation for our Gardner and Mission Field projects.
Questions from board members for Matt? Questions, comments, anything? So the money for these mini splits, we had mentioned this before. Is this coming out of our budget? Is coming out of county budget? Where's that money coming from?
The airport budget.
And which leaves us with how much? I mean, I guess we don't have. Eric is saying, so the board didn't approve this for the AC splits on this expenditure. Because of the size of the expenditure, do we need to approve this? Were we supposed to approve this or?
We haven't signed a contract to do anything. But I think it's something that would be good to be done up there. I'm working it into the budget, and then next year or next month, we should have the budget before you guys for the whole thing to recommend the county commission approve it.
Is it, do you feel like it's really needed AC up there?
Guess it depends if you like to be in a building that's 90 degrees.
Or go outside?
Yeah, that's a choice.
I mean, it's not a residence.
No, but you have an FBO in there.
So how many of these AC units are gonna,
One in each room, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
so if I recall correctly, in Gabriel's initial proposal of the lease thing, he was gonna take care of air conditioning in his portion.
Yeah, I mean, you could have 2 put in there.
Well, wasn't that his deal? I mean, he's gonna, if he wants air conditioning, he puts it in.
Yeah, then the other side that he's not in will be hot and sweaty. That's a choice, yeah.
No, my point is, if he was going to put in air conditioning in his remodel portion at that ridiculous low rate that he got, as part of his input into that office space, then he handles air conditioning on his side. But the other side, the public side that's not leased, that's where these 4 are gonna go in?
No, it goes through the whole building.
Well, then I'm saying he should be responsible for his portion. And then the county, if we elect to recommend, we do the public portion.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be installing air conditioning
As
in his
long as he's
remodel
moved to,
building.
we need to come up with a separate meter for his side.
He's paying half of.
He's paying half of the
He's paying half of the
utilities.
utilities, which is,
So I guess my thought was, instead of 2 people paying $20,000 each for a system to go in, why not? 25 for the whole building, since it's our building, and then when.
Is this like room air conditioners? Is that what they do?
Yeah, so looking at the whole building, Graybill said that it's cheaper to do those mini AC splits than it is like a central air conditioning unit. So that's why, like,
I
they
don't
do,
know what a mini AC split is.
it does, it's a heat pump, so it does both heating
Oh.
and cooling. We don't necessarily need the heat function because we already have a boiler in there. But they do cool, and so you might as well go with the cheaper route for having the AC.
So we still have the same old boiler, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's been there for 50
Yeah.
years.
and these
Yeah.
mini splits are kind of the standard. They're the high standard today. And the heating portion of them, depending on the kind, they're a lot more efficient. You know, it'd be cheaper with the price of fuel where it is.
So if the boiler ever went out, then these would.
Yeah,
the
unless it gets like
heating.
really cold.
Yeah,
They
they're.
go down to about -17.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
getting better all the time, but
Yeah.
realistically, they're most efficient, you know, at the, 20 degrees,
So-
10 degrees. I mean, depends on the model, depends how they're balanced, but I mean, they're the standard out there. They're pretty reliable. They're
Yep.
relatively cheap compared to everything else.
Yeah. And that's, the whole system can be run off one compressor. Versus if we do the 1/2 and 1/2, then we'll have to have 2 compressor units and 2 electrical units.
Do we have any of that, any of our COVID money left that could be used for?
I'll have to check there about that one.
So I think that
Was
one of the
this
things.
more of a priority than you know something else? Wheelchair ramps on the other side, or?
That will all actually be done with the grant for the or hopefully be done with the grant for the terminal building. That would redo wheelchair ramps, the front door, ADA bathrooms. That would all get done with that. So I'd rather have that 95% paid for by someone else. So
Where are we at with that grant?
it's been submitted, and
We haven't heard it.
yeah, I think that takes a while to just go through the process.
End of June, I think.
Yeah.
Is what I've heard.
Other questions for Matt on this or anything else? How, anybody? If you don't, I am. Just, the completing the ground leases and the transfers, what do we have for an active transfers going on? Did you get one for Gardner?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that
So
one
that's-
took a little while because they didn't give me any contact information in their letter.
Do
So
you need the contact?
no, he reached out to me and wondered why I hadn't contacted him. I told him it's contact information.
Yeah, because I think I gave him your number. and
Yep, I appreciate that. That was
Anybody
the only
else
way.
on that or?
Nope, it's in front of the commission next week because it's a standard
Yeah.
your guys' standard lease, so.
And anything else, any other transfers or anything going on at Mission Field right now that you're aware of? Or-
Not that I can think of that are active.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was anything else in addition to that one. So the one that Matt's referring to down at Gardner was the other hangar, the other, usable hangar other than mine down there that a guy named Doug Van Hout, who was an artist out of California, has had for 30 years. And so Van Hout's selling it to Doug Chapman. So
Oh,
Doug
yeah.
Chapman is Bill Chapman's kid. And
He's doing something up there.
well, Doug, I mean, he wanted to keep it there. He's got the only permit for doing flight scene, the only active permit for doing flight scene in the park. He hasn't used it. He hasn't expressed to me that he wants to do that, but yeah, he's the one that's.
Last time we toured his hangar, it looked like the roof was coming in.
Well, and that's Bill's, so that's still active too. I'm not sure what the family plans to do it, but Doug has bought Van Hout's hangar now. So whether he's gonna put something in there, what his long-term intentions are, I don't know. And then also, so everybody knows that one guy that was here,
We're doing the chopper flights.
yeah, correct. So David Brooks, he approached me a few days ago, said that that's off the table now for this year. He's gonna try to do something. He's saying this upcoming winter. So, but as far as
He
flight
was
scene,
too late getting started. probably.
he's been working on it for a year, so I'm not sure what all the implications are, but he was trying to secure loan funding and such. Anyway, so he got a hold of me, he said that wasn't the case. And then we do have another, soon we'll have another base aircraft at Gardner. So there's a guy he's the head construction manager for Xanterra, and he's got a twin Seneca that he's bringing in there next week or week after, so. That's that on that. Anything else from anyone?
I'll just share, Jake Migalski reached out about the courtesy car grant for Will Sal and just had a quick conversation with Hunter and Jake. It didn't seem, the deadline for that grant is the end of this month. It's only $5,000. So it just didn't seem like this was a good year, but he just so you know, he raised that interest.
He wants a courtesy car for Will Salt. He can't even get there half the time.
Oh, that one. I wanted Katie to hear from everybody else. She sent me an
Have you
email
met with
asking
Katie?
about that, so.
Yeah.
So I
Just to let you know, it's not going anywhere, but just that.
yeah, and I guess that brings up point two with the courtesy cars. How's that working out up at Mission Field?
Good as far as I know, yeah. See
We
that
haven't had
around
any
occasionally.
issues, nobody's stolen anything and maintenance issues or anything else. All right, great,
Yeah.
okay. You guys got anything else? What else do you want to see on the next agenda? Is there any comments right now that we need to address next time, that we need to do research prior to our next meeting? Hearing none. You all can get a hold of me prior to the meeting. We can do it. Our next meeting will be, you see on there, Katie, by chance?
And we're gonna have to take up some leases.
Exactly. So that's what I see, is that we have leases that are coming due here for a construction time period for, I think it's just for Gabriel for Yellowstone Air Service. Are there any others that come out?
Andrew Levy's off the ways.
Yeah, but he's already got
He's
construction
already-
going,
right.
he's breaking ground,
Yeah.
so.
We have a date.
June 27th.
Thanks, Ray. June 27th, Monday, June
My
27th.
attention
9 a.m.
span's real short, you know, if I can't.
So is mine. Obviously, mine's shorter than yours.
It's unraveling around.
So, okay,
Dr. Plaga's lease also.
oh, his is coming up too, huh?
Yeah, but I can't say for sure if it's gonna be next month or not. but-
I can't either.
Yeah.
And you're right, though, this is coming up within the next couple months.
Yeah.
And I guess, boy, I hate to get off on
What's the
another
intent,
tangent.
you think?
Yeah, exactly. And your intent with the Flying Rangers, how's that going with that?
Oh, it's great. We got a new member. Fellow from Tennessee, is a longtime pilot. He's getting checked out yesterday, so it's on the right side of the zero line. And Teddy Kalaga is he's gonna let his lease go back at this point, because such time as he chooses to build a hangar, he's gonna wait for the taxiways and get one over on the north side.
Sure.
Any other comments from anyone? Clint, you got anything?
Nothing.
Anything else, man? Nope. Okay, next meeting, 27th, as already said, 9 AM here. Anything that happens in the interim, you guys all know how to get a hold of me, or I know how to get a hold of you, so. Thanks for your time, thanks for coming, and we'll just get out that status as soon as we know more as far as where things are at with implementing this fee. As soon as I hear, or you guys hear, keep in contact, and then also with the FlightAware, Paul, you and Mac can get together and get things going. Do I have a motion to
First time
adjourn?
I've got available.
So
is
moved.
probably-
All in favor, see you later.
Do I just reach out to you at that time, or?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll notify him that, let's try to pick a date and I'll notify this guy. and we can
Hey,
do it
that'd be a
on
great
Zoom or
job
whatever.
for a person that's not working.
You can't afford me.
Probably
I can. The airport can.
June
They,
second,
they can't
or
afford me.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty
Sometime that
severe
next week.
conflict of interest with my
I
public
don't see
service.